Hey everyone, I recently came across this story. France terror attack. Hero policeman married hours before he died. This references an event that happened in a supermarket in Carcassonne. I guess I'm pronouncing that correctly. Whenever you hear about a terror attack, you can always guarantee there's going to be some really bizarre stories, and this one absolutely fits the bill. Lt Col Arnaud Beltrame, who has been praised by President Macron, was planning to marry his partner in June. Okay, the story goes, a police officer who took the place of a hostage during a terror attack at a French supermarket married his partner while on his deathbed. Lt Col Arnaud Beltrame voluntarily swapped himself for a female store worker during Friday's siege. The 44-year-old died in hospital from his injuries after being shot 3 times by radical Islamist Redouane Lakdim in Tribes, southwest France. A mass was held paying tribute to the victims of the attack. It has emerged that hours before his death, Lt Beltrame married his partner Marielle in a ceremony at a hospital in Carcassonne. According to the reports, the couple had been planning a church wedding in June after they met during a tour of an abbey in France in 2016. Father Jean-Baptiste said the couple had spent some 30 hours preparing for their marriage ceremony. He said, "I gave him the sacrament of marriage and the sacrament of the sick." Lakdim, 25, was shot dead by police after Lt Col Beltrame left his mobile phone on so colleagues could hear what was happening inside the supermarket. A national tribute is to take place at a later date for Lt Col Beltrame, who President Emmanuel Macron said had died a hero and deserved the respect and the admiration of the whole nation. The officer's brother, Cedric, said he had given his life for strangers and knew he had almost no chance of surviving. He did not hesitate 1 second, Mr. Beltrame told RTL Radio. He did what needed to be done, and thanks to him many lives were saved. And yes, I think the word hero is very appropriate. The officer's mother, who was not been named, said she was not surprised by her son's actions, saying he's always been like that. Does that sound familiar, Martin Het? Anyway, let's stick to the story. It's someone, since he was born, who gives everything for his homeland. Mr. Macron said of Lt Col Beltrame, in giving his life to end the deadly plan of a jihadi terrorist, he fell as a hero. Prime Minister Theresa May said she was saddened by the officer's death, adding, his sacrifice and courage will never be forgotten. Britain's ambassador to France, Ed Llewellyn, also paid tribute, saying Beltrame gave his life to save the lives of others and was truly a hero. Samia Manassa, the manager of the supermarket targeted in the attack, said her colleague who was swapped Lt Col Beltrame during the siege was in a catastrophic state. This is the manager of the supermarket here. Beltrame, who joined France's elite police special forces in 2003 and served in Iraq in 2005, military again, had reportedly organised a training session last December to prepare for hostage situations. What a weird coincidence, man. Mr. Macron said investigators will focus on establishing how Morocco-born Lakdim obtained his weapon and how he became radicalised. Lakdim was known to police for petty crimes and drug dealing and had been on a watch list from 2014, according to France's prosecutor, Francis Mollins, but he was not believed to be preparing any terrorist act. Islamic State has claimed the atrocity was in response to its call to target Western enemies. Lakdim hijacked a car in the city of Carcassonne, seriously wounding the driver and killing the passenger before driving towards Tribes. He shot at police officers before hiding in a supermarket, taking several people hostage. During the standoff with police, Lakdim demanded the release of Salah Abdeslam, the only surviving member of the Islamic State cell that attacked Paris in 2015. Lakdim killed 2 people before giving up most of the hostages, keeping 1 woman as a human shield, who Lt Col Beltrame traded places with. Police have detained a 17-year-old boy who was allegedly a friend of Lakdim in connection with the terror attack. Another woman who was also allegedly connected to the attack was taken into custody. In my previous videos, I've done a hoax event checklist, where if you want to determine how fake an event is, you just do this, go through this list. Right, ISIS claim responsibility, check. Victims were named within 24 hours. What day did this happen? Friday. And this was a couple of days later, not quite 24 hours. Amateur walkthrough footage used, but not in this news story. Civilians doing paramedics, injured people. GoFundMe Just Giving pages set up for victims and their families. Let's take a look, shall we? Just Giving. What a surprise. Oh, that's not very much. I haven't raised a lot there. We're raising 10,000 to donate to the family of Lt Col Arnaud Beltrame. I'm sure there's more than just that. 170, they're not doing very well. Okay, this story was actually from the following day, and they had indeed named Arnaud Beltrame. They say he's 45 in this one. Go back to the Sky News story, and they list him as being 44. As we'll go back to our checklist in a minute, you'll see why that number is kind of important. Okay, we'll go back to our list. Bereaved loved ones appearing on television looking very happy. Well, we haven't seen that yet. Receives over-the-top news coverage in France, I think it has, but not so much here in the UK. People going missing. Right, strange use of numbers. 11, 22, 33, etc. That includes 44. If we go back to this picture, 422. Now, some people are a lot better at the whole numerology than I am. I'm sure they could find 33s, stuff like that all over the place. Well, let's see what this news story is talking about. How long is it?
In France, and French officials are praising the heroic actions of a police officer who was badly injured. Officials say the policeman offered to switch places with a hostage at a supermarket in the town of Trèbes and stay with the armed suspect. He also managed to leave his cell phone on, establishing contact with officers outside of the market. Well, after hearing gunfire, French forces stormed the market, killing the gunman. The Islamic State group has claimed responsibility for the shooting.
Quite a lot of our checklist we can tick off on this, but for me the most bizarre thing is this is a guy who was supposedly fighting for his life. You assume he was conscious because he was able to take part in a wedding ceremony. 30 hours they spent, it tells us. Father Jean-Baptiste has spent some 30 hours preparing for their marriage ceremony. That's 30 hours they could have spent saving his life, but rather than that they decided to fuss around getting married. It doesn't make sense for someone who's fighting for their life to them to say, look, forget whatever they do, blood transfusions, getting the bullet out, putting me under anaesthetic or into an induced coma. Let's just do a wedding ceremony. It doesn't make sense. And as always, grainy, terrible pictures of the people involved. Something very odd about this one. Another thing that always happens in these attacks, they arrest the family members. Now that is quite bizarre. The perpetrator, or alleged perpetrator, was known to the police. Police have detained a 17-year-old boy who was a friend of him. Another woman who was also allegedly connected to the attack was taken into custody on Friday. In another story I read, Lakdim's mother was brought in to try and reason with him. And it looks like, I'm assuming that's the woman they're talking about. After she didn't have any luck, they arrested her. And like I say, load of the usual. Anyway, give us your thoughts. Thank you ever so much.